Was it good, bad, okay? Good. Good. I really like that poem, and it's different. I've done it a few times, and it's different every time I do it, and I did. So here's a quote from one of my heroes, Kermit the Frog. So how important are the visual arts in our society? I feel strongly that the visual arts are of vast and incalculable importance. Of course, I could be prejudiced. I am a visual art. So I totally agree with Kermit the Frog. I think the visual arts and the arts are really, really important. I went to a Waldorf school when I was growing up, so I knew how to knit before I knew how to read. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I don't need to have
I just have one question. Waldorf, Long Island?
New York City, the Rudolph Steiner School in New York City.
What exactly is Waldorf for those of us that don't know?
Yeah, well, the Waldorf education is an education that really stresses the arts. I mean, you know, there's a whole philosophy about sort of thinking, feeling, and willing, and that you sort of bring these different aspects of sort of your personality into your education. But, I mean, the easiest way for me to explain it is that I was knitting before I was reading. And knitting socks in 3rd grade, not just like little scarves. So, I mean, you know, we were fully prepared to go to college by the time it was time to go to college, but they just sort of have a big emphasis on the arts. And my parents, you know, they had their regular jobs, but we also did stained glass and pottery and, you know, made dresses and all kinds of stuff at home and on the weekends. So, you know, I loved the arts, and I was sort of immersed in the arts from the beginning. And so what I began to see when I moved up from New York City up to Northampton with my 2 kids, one who is 21 now and one who is 13, is that the arts started getting severely cut, like in the public schools. And I moved to like the best little arts town in America, or so I thought, Northampton, and I was fighting for a half an hour of arts in my kids' school, you know, a half an hour of, you know, art education in the public schools. So I started thinking about that and looking at the impact it was having on the kids and feeling like a lot of kids were really unhappy. You know, that there was all this emphasis on standardized testing and MCAS, and arts was being pushed out and phys ed was being pushed out. And around that time, I met this woman named Jane Sapp, who does leadership. There's no better way to say it than she does leadership training through music. And she told me that, and I was like, oh, it's leadership training through music. And she said, well, come down to Springfield and you will see. So rather than try to explain what that is, I'm going to show a little piece of a film called Someone Sang For Me, which is, Jane was probably the person that, you know, I loved the most out of all the people that I got to spend time with and interview and make a film about. And when this film was over, and this film took 5 years from beginning to end because it was really hard to fund. That's a problem when you're a documentary filmmaker or somebody, you know, working in the arts, is that often it's hard to get funding for your work. So it seemed like a challenge to begin with, and it was, but it actually turned out okay because then we got to follow certain kids as they grew up through this program and got to see where they started and where they finished up. We're not going to see the whole thing. We'll see maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But this is Someone Sang For Me, and it's about Jane Sapp and her 2 programs in Springfield, Massachusetts.